The Geet Ruler Episode Number 104 Explanation. The clamor had toned down at this moment as astonishment covered the faces of those Academy Alliance experts who had ferocious expressions earlier. They were looking at Nai Li in fear as some of them could not help move on backwards. Mu Chen was not bothered with them as he looked indifferently towards the figure that was covered in fresh blood lying on the ground. You. Qin Feng struggled to get up with his body covered in blood. The spiritual energy ripples around him had also withered to the bottom. If it wasn't for the protection of spiritual energy in their clash earlier on, he might have been killed by Mu Chen with a fist. But even so, his eyes were filled with fear at this moment. He trembled as he looked towards Mu Chen. He could not understand where that fearsome power that exploded from Mu Chen came from. He should not be able to use his spiritual energy here. Mu Chen looked at Qin Feng's expression as he lightly smiled. Indeed, he was not able to use any spiritual energy, but the energy that he had used earlier was the energy of the Black Lightning. His body had been refined by the Black Lightning countless times. Therefore, there would be some remaining Black Lightning in his body. If it was before, it would not be easy to sense the Black Lightning under the surging of his spiritual energy. However, the instant his spiritual energy had quietened down, Mu Chen was able to sense the Black Lightning hidden in the depth of his muscles. Perhaps that power could not be considered as powerful, but it was sufficient here. However, it needed some time for him to gather that energy. Therefore, Mu Chen allowed Qin Feng to attack him as he wished. What he was after was to fight for more time. However, he knew that he only had this one chance as Qin Feng's speed was extremely fast, due to the fact that he could still use his spiritual energy. Mu Chen, on the other hand, could not compete with him purely with the speed of his physical body. Therefore, not only did he have to gather his energy, he also had to grasp the exact moment that he could truly heavily injure Qin Feng. All of this needed some kind of judgment, and clearly, Qin Feng had been plotted by Mu Chen right from the start. When Qin Feng had become complacent, he clearly did not notice the cold sneer that was hidden deep within Mu Chen's pupils. It seemed like Qin Feng was not the one that laughed in the end. Next up, can you still retaliate? Mu Chen smiled toward Qin Feng as he moved forward. Qin Feng quickly moved back from the sight of him. When he moved, his shirt shattered. It was due to the gale that surrounded Mu Chen's fist from before. When his shirt shattered into pieces, there was an object that emitted a faint light that fell off from his chest. It was a palm-sized jade plate that was emitting a faint luster. When Qin Feng saw the jade plate falling from his body, his expression changed as he quickly made a grab towards it. Boom! The feet of Mu Chen stomped on the ground as his figure shot forth. His expression turned exceptionally ferocious as he charged towards Qin Feng with killing intent, as if he had intended to slaughter the latter. Qin Feng trembled as he was frightened from Mu Chen's ferocious gaze. His eyes flickered as he gritted his teeth. He withdrew his extending hand as he utilized his remaining spiritual energy and turned into a blurry image as he escaped. As Qin Feng escaped, the experts of the Academy Alliance no longer had any thoughts of fighting as they all respectively escaped. In less than a minute, the bustling forest had become empty. Mu Chen did not chase after Qin Feng as he had picked up the jade plate that had fallen onto the ground, and examined it. He had a feeling that this item was the reason why Qin Feng could still use spiritual energy in this region. Otherwise, Qin Feng's face would not have changed so much. This jade plate had the size of a palm with a smooth surface. Within the jade plate, there were light patterns spreading out, forming a complicated rune. Vaguely, he could also sense a peculiar ripple being emitted from it. What is that? Luo Li and Wen Qingxuan asked in curiosity as they walked over as they looked at the jade plate in Mu Chen's hand. Mu Chen stared at the complicated patterns within the jade plate. Perhaps an ordinary person could not see anything from the pattern, but Mu Chen could feel something familiar about it. There is a spiritual array carved in this jade plate. Mu Chen slowly said after pondering for quite some time. Oh. Luo Li and Wen Qingxuan slightly understood. The both of them were not spiritual array masters, so they could not tell what spiritual array it was. Just when Mu Chen was holding onto the jade plate, his expression suddenly changed. What's wrong? Luo Li and Wen Qingxuan quickly asked from the sight of it. Mu Chen's expression was a little peculiar. Shortly, his body lightly trembled and a bizarre scene was shown before the two girls. A majestic black and white mixed spiritual energy suddenly swept out from Mu Chen's body. "You're able to use spiritual energy now." Mu Chen lightly smiled as he looked at the jade plate with a peculiar gaze as he softly said, "So the reason why Qin Feng was able to use spiritual energy was due to the spiritual array carved in the jade plate. If I have not guessed incorrectly, the spiritual array within this jade plate should be able to isolate the disruption to the human body's spiritual energy by the sealing spiritual array. I wonder who it was that carved it. It seems like there is a powerful spiritual array master amongst the Academy Alliance," muttered Mu Chen. However, who was it? Mo Yu, Qin Feng, and Liu Xiong clearly didn't look like something that had any deep accomplishments in the ways of spiritual arrays. If that's the case, it should be the head of the Academy Alliance that seldom shows himself. The Great Spiritual Academy Tournament is indeed hiding dragons and crouching tigers. Mu Chen sighed. "You are also a spiritual array master, right? Are you able to carve this type of spiritual array?" Wen Qingxuan asked. Not being able to use spiritual energy was simply too hard to bear. If she could thoroughly use her spiritual energy, would she have needed the help of Mu Chen earlier? Mu Chen stared at the complicated light patterns within the jade plate as he lightly smiled. Although this spiritual energy is indeed ingenious, the level of it is not high. It would not be hard to do it once I know the diagram. Furthermore, this spiritual array is not complete. Perhaps this was the reason why Qin Feng could not fully negate the effect of the sealing spiritual array. "Can you make it better?" Wen Qingxuan's brows twitched. "It shouldn't be too difficult." Mu Chen smiled. His smile contained unnoticeable pride. He had absolute confidence in his talent in spiritual arrays. No matter what, his mother was a spiritual array ancestor. Even amongst the entire Great Thousand World, she was at the pinnacle level. As someone that had inherited her bloodline, it would be strange if Mu Chen was mediocre in spiritual arrays. That Qin Feng had gifted us an excellent present. Otherwise, it would be dangerous for us to charge in. Luo Li smiled. Earlier on, no one thought that Qin Feng and his group would possess such a trump card. Although if they were to thoroughly fight, it was not possible for Qin Feng and his group to deal with them completely. It would at least be at a cost for Mu Chen's party. Mu Chen nodded his head as he sat down with his legs crossed as he held onto the jade plate. "Give me some time." When he finished speaking, he directed his attention into the jade plate with both his eyes closed, sensing the complicated light patterns. Thereafter, projecting it back to his brain and quickly outlining an ingenious complicated diagram. Luo Li and Wen Qingxuan sat down beside Mu Chen. Luo Li looked at the youth who was still covered in fresh blood as her eyelashes trembled. On the side, Wen Qingxuan looked at Luo Li. In her view, Luo Li was clearly a better view compared to Mu Chen. Although that fella's performance earlier was pretty good, it could still not move Luo Li's spot in her heart. Luo Li. However, Wen Qingxuan seemed to have thought of something and her expression changed. "HM?" Luo Li turned her head as she looked at Wen Qingxuan. "You're from the Luo God clan, right? Furthermore, not long from now you will become the next empress of the Luo God clan." Wen Qingxuan said softly as she looked at the exquisite face. Luo Li nodded her head as she stared at Mu Chen in daze and fondness. She had no idea what he would be like when she sees him the next time. The situation in the Luo God clan does not seem too good, right? Wen Qingxuan lightly sighed as she seemed to be aware of some matters. Luo Li smiled. Perhaps this is the weakest moment in the history of the Luo God clan. However, it's all right. I will work hard. Wen Qingxuan looked at the young girl as she hesitated for a moment before speaking. Have you heard of the West Heaven War Emperor?" In the next instant, Luo Li's figure seemed to have trembled as she looked at Wen Qingxuan and nodded her head, being able to stand on par with the Martial Ancestor of the Martial Realm and the Flame Emperor of the Endless Fire Territory. How could I have not heard of the name West Heaven War Emperor? I've heard that he had once said that he could protect your Luo God clan. Wen Qingxuan lowered her voice as she continued, "Except..." Luo Li smiled, "Except that I have to go to the Great West Heaven Realm, right? My grandfather has spoken with me about this matter. However, I told him that for us to be this petty and low to be protected by someone for a clan to exist isn't what we need. I will work my hardest to change the Luo God clan. If my Luo God clan were to die, I will die together with my clan members. What War Emperor, although his name is intimidating, I have no interest in what he wants me to do in the Great West Heaven Realm. Wen Qingxuan looked at the charming girl as she asked, why? Luo Li looked at the youth not far away as she lightly smiled and said in a soft voice, because someone told me that one day, he will become an unrivaled expert, so I will wait for him. Wen Qingxuan looked at Mu Chen. This fellow's ambition is truly big. I have to trouble you not to let Mu Chen know of this matter, said Luo Li. Wen Qingxuan nodded her head as she knew that Luo Li did not want Mu Chen to feel too pressured. After all, West Heaven War Emperor was too powerful. He was a great figure, even in the Great Thousand World. Even the clan that she resided in could not ignore such an existence. However, between the choice of clouds and mud, Luo Li did not hesitate to stand by Mu Chen. The trust that she had in him was indeed something that could make others jealous. That fellow is really lucky. Mu Chen quietly sat under the shadow with both his eyes closed. The jade plate in his hands emitted a faint light as his powerful spiritual energy wrapped around the jade plate. The light patterns on the jade plate seemed as if it was moving as there were fine changes to it. However, the changes gradually made the spiritual array within the jade plate to be more complete. Mu Chen possessed extraordinary talent in the path of spiritual arrays. Under his heart's eye state, he could grasp the ingenious spiritual array within the jade plate that wasn't too complicated as he made amendments to it. The light on the jade plate lasted for roughly 10 minutes, before Mu Chen slowly opened his eyes. He looked at the jade plate, which was even more brilliant compared to before, as a smile hung on the corner of his lips. Is it done? Luo Li and Wen Qingxuan looked over from the side. Mu Chen nodded his head as he handed the jade plate in his hands over to Luo Li. Luo Li's hand grasped it and used her intent. A surge of powerful spiritual energy swept out from her body as joy flickered in her charming eyes. It could indeed negate the effect of the sealing spiritual array to the spiritual energy inside the body. With this jade plate, we would be able to unleash our strength without fear. Can you still make 2 more? Wen Qingxuan hastily asked. The sensation of not being able to use spiritual energy was simply too hard to bear. I can, but the effect would not be that good under haste. Mu Chen nodded. It's fine, as long as I can use my spiritual energy, all those fellows would be considered as trash in my eyes. Wen Qingxuan clenched her fist. Her clear voice contained a frosty chill. Clearly, she had been angered by Qin Feng's actions earlier. Mu Chen nodded as he smiled. Qin Feng and his group would probably not have a good time after offending Wen Qingxuan. He made a grabbing gesture as 2 other jade plates appeared in his hand. Mu Chen closed his eyes as he controlled his spiritual energy, causing light patterns to gradually form on the jade plates. Upon creating 2 other jade plates, it took him nearly half an hour before Mu Chen reopened his eyes and passed the other 2 jade plates over to Luo Li and Wen Qingxuan. Time is too crucial. Under haste, these 2 jade plates are not as complete as the first one. However, it could allow you to use roughly 70% of your spiritual energy. That's more than enough. When Qingxuan received it as she said in a light tone, let's go. We have to seize the moment and rush to the hidden spiritual courtyard. When we do, leave it all to me. When she finished speaking, she did not wait for Mu Chen's reply and turned around, flying into the depths of the forest. After being able to use her spiritual energy again, there was a difference as great as the sky and earth in her strength. Her speed was something that even Mu Chen was startled by. Mu Chen smiled as he nodded his head towards Luo Li. The 2 of them quickly chased after her. Just as Mu Chen and his group were speeding towards the depths of the forest, Mo Yu, who was at the hidden spiritual courtyard, looked at Qin Feng's group, who returned with miserable appearances, in astonishment. Shortly, he furrowed his brows as he asked, "What's going on?" "We lost by Mu Chen's hands," Qin Feng said with a pale face as he wiped the blood off the corner of his lips. "He can't use any spiritual energy. How are you not his opponent?" Mo Yu questioned in astonishment. That fellow's physical body is extremely powerful. Furthermore, there seemed to be something strange with it. Aside from spiritual energy, there was still another energy. Qin Feng gritted his teeth as he hesitated for a brief moment before continuing, even my spiritual protection jade plate is in his hands. What? Liu Xiong's face changed. The reason why they were so fearless in this region was due to the fact that they had ways to use their spiritual energy. Therefore, even towards Mu Chen and Wen Qingxuan, they didn't have any fear. However, Qin Feng had lost his spiritual protection jade plate. Wasn't that their biggest reliance? Mo Yu's face changed as his gaze turned dark. What now? Liu Xiong looked towards Mo Yu. I'm afraid that Mu Chen's group is rushing over right now. It's fine. Mo Yu's eyes flickered as he shook his head. The spiritual protection jade plate that was in the hands of you both wasn't complete due to the lack of time. Even if Mu Chen and his group obtained it, they could only use 50% of their spiritual energy. There's nothing to fear. Furthermore, this seal is about to break. According to Big Brother's words, we should be able to control the spiritual array here. At that time, we could gather everyone's strength. At that time, not even Mu Chen and his group could do a thing to us. Hearing Mo Yu's words, only then did Liu Xiong and Qin Feng feel relieved. Gather everyone here. Mo Yu instructed. Shortly after, the light disk in his hand shot forth with light ray once again, shining onto the seal of the hidden spiritual courtyard, dissipating the light runes on it. Qin Feng and Liu Xiong nodded their heads and immediately issued a hand gesture. Several figures flew from the surrounding forest one after another and gathered in the hidden spiritual courtyard. It was a black patch of people with nervous and guarded gazes as they looked at the dark forest path. This entire area instantly turned silent, only some heavy breathing could be heard. Rustle. Rustle. Time slowly went past and suddenly, there were fine footsteps coming from the dark forest. Qin Feng and Liu Xiong's expressions gathered as they looked at the dark forest. The sound of footsteps became clearer and clearer. In the end, 3 figures walked out of the darkness and appeared on the border of the spiked trees. Ha ha, what a huge formation. Mu Chen smiled as he looked at the amount of people. Beside him, Luo Li and Wen Qingxuan were looking over with chilled gazes. Mu Chen, don't be too complacent. You really think that you can defeat all of us just because you obtained the spiritual protection jade plate? Qin Feng viciously looked at Mu Chen as he continued, my spiritual protection jade plate only allows you to use 50% of your spiritual energy. Based on your strength as human body disaster, do you think that you can deal with all of us? So it was called the spiritual protection jade plate. The person that created this thing for the 3 of you is pretty capable. Mu Chen smiled. Thereafter, he made a step forward under the guarded gazes of the other group. A mockery smile was lifted on the corner of his lips as he made a grasping gesture with his hand. The boundless spiritual energy was like tornado as it swept out. I think you're wrong. This spiritual protection jade plate could allow me to utilize all my spiritual energy. Qin Feng and Liu Xiong's faces drastically changed at this point in time. They looked at the spiritual energy around Mu Chen in disbelief. Impossible! Qin Feng exclaimed. The spiritual protection jade plate was originally his, so he naturally knew how effective it was. It was not a complete spiritual array, so it would not allow anyone to use 100% of their spiritual energy. How is it impossible? I amended this spiritual protection jade plate a little. Mu Chen smiled as he continued, I even created 2 of them in a short time. As he finished speaking, spiritual energy ripples swept out from Luo Li and Wen Qingxuan, causing a whistling of wind in the air. Qin Feng and Liu Xiong's expressions instantly turned pale as their eyes were filled with fear. They could not imagine that Mu Chen not only amended 1 spiritual protection jade plate, he had also created 2 more in such a short time. If that was the case, didn't that mean that Luo Li and Wen Qingxuan had recovered a portion of their strength? I have to thank you for giving us your spiritual protection jade plate. Otherwise, I would have no ways. Mu Chen smiled towards Qin Feng. Seeing his smile, the latter felt sweetness in his throat, since he had the urge to vomit blood. Up ahead of them, the Academy Alliance army could not help retreating with their faces paled from the pressure of the powerful spiritual energy. Their fighting spirit from before was thoroughly wiped as they understood that it was impossible to obstruct Mu Chen's group of 3 that had regained their spiritual energy. It seems like your attainments in the ways of spiritual array is pretty high. A cold voice resounded as Mo Yu slowly turned around. His expression was cold as he looked at Mu Chen. Mu Chen looked at the second leader of the Academy Alliance as he smiled. There should be someone that has high attainments in the ways of spiritual arrays, right? I suppose that is the mysterious head leader? He isn't here. If Big Brother is here, how could you be so arrogant? Qin Feng said, grinding his teeth. It's not easy to meet such an outstanding spiritual array master, so I wanted to get to know him. Mu Chen said with indifference. There will be chance for you to do that. Except that your outcome might not be too good. Mo Yu's tone was similarly indifferent. I'm looking forward to that. Mu Chen smiled as he continued, however, it should be your outcome that isn't too good right now. Mu Chen, if you take your group and leave now, the grudges between you and the Academy Alliance will be erased. In the future, we would not cause any trouble to you as well. In this place, it's better to have a friend rather than an enemy, how about it? Mo Yu said slowly. Too late. Mu Chen lightly sighed. HMPH, to refuse goodwill and have to be forced. Liu Xiong coldly snorted, do you really think that you can deal with all of us with just the 3 of you? Isn't your appetite a little too big? You're wrong. An indifferent voice resounded, it was not from Mu Chen. Wen Qingxuan slowly walked up with a cold expression. The black robe that she wore over her had already been removed at this instant, revealing her golden battle armor. The battle armor outlined her figure as she tightly grasped her war spear. The spear tip gradually lifted up and was pointed towards the other party. Her cold and prideful voice resounded in this area. Just me alone would be enough to deal with all of you. When she finished speaking, brilliant golden light swept out from her body. The brilliance of the golden light vaguely formed a golden phoenix behind her. An honorable and aloft aura was being emitted from it. The numero uno of the Great Spiritual Academy tournament was finally going to act. A brilliant golden light spread out in this hidden spiritual courtyard. Wen Qingxuan held onto her golden war spear as her devastatingly beautiful face was filled with frost. Boundless and vast spiritual energy formed into a spiritual energy pressure as it swept towards the Academy Alliance. Faced with Wen Qingxuan's pressure, the Academy Alliance was trembling as they had already lost their fighting spirit. At the sight of it, Mo Yu's face turned ugly as he said with a solemn voice, Wen Qingxuan, don't take it too far. Our Academy Alliance has never once offended the Myriad Phoenix Spiritual Academy. Why are you being so overbearing? I just don't like the sight of you people. Wen Qingxuan's cold voice resounded. You? Rage flashed across Mo Yu's eyes as he continued to say with a solemn voice, Wen Qingxuan, although you are powerful, our big brother might not fear you. You're trying to scare me with a fellow that only knows how to hide himself. Wen Qingxuan coldly smiled as she tapped her foot on the ground and flew out. Golden light surged as if it was a golden phoenix. It was extremely gorgeous. Under the gorgeous sight, a golden war spear emitted a dazzling light as it turned into spear images that covered the skies, surrounding the group from the Academy Alliance. Boom! Boom! With Wen Qingxuan's strength, it was hard for ordinary people to withstand it. Not to mention that she could use a portion of her spiritual energy, whereas the group from the Academy Alliance could not. The strength of their physical bodies could not be comparable to Wen Qingxuan's attacks. Thus, the group from the Academy Alliance fled in disorder from the places that the golden light went. Several figures were sent flying away, spurting blood from the spear images. In just a short dozen minutes, the group from the Academy Alliance had already been defeated. Wen Qingxuan, you're too much. Mo Yu's face turned pale at the sight of this as he issued a bark. His feet stomped on the ground as his figure flew forward. A surge of powerful spiritual energy swept out from his body as a huge sword image formed in his hands when he made a grabbing gesture. Thereafter, it shot towards Wen Qingxuan in a crafty angle. HM? When Mu Chen saw the powerful spiritual energy burst from Mo Yu, he gasped as he felt that Mo Yu had exploded all the spiritual energy within his body. It wasn't the same as Qin Feng, who could only use half of his spiritual energy. Clearly, the spiritual protection jade plate that he had was more complete compared to Qin Feng's. HMPH. Wen Qingxuan raised her phoenix-like gaze as she coldly snorted when she saw the Mo Yu that was charging towards her direction. The golden war spear in her hand abruptly burst with dazzling light, and vaguely, there were cries of a phoenix resounding from it. Spear of the Golden Phoenix. The golden war spear shot forth as if it was a golden phoenix that had spread its wings. It brought along dazzling golden light as it ferociously clashed with the opposite attack without any retreat. Ding! A clear metallic clash resonated. At the moment of the clash of the spear and sword, a fearsome gale swept out, causing deep marks to be made on the ground from the aura of the sword and spear. Boom! The sword images suddenly exploded as Mo Yu's figure trembled for a moment, before flying away. A blood trace appeared on his palm as blood flowed down from his fingers. Clearly, he was at a disadvantage in his clash with Wen Qingxuan. Spirit disaster. Mo Yu looked at his palm that was covered in blood as he looked at Wen Qingxuan with a dark expression, indeed worthy as the captain of the once numero uno team. The current you must have already experienced the spirit disaster, right? Mo Yu's strength was only a step away before he would experience the spirit disaster. Ordinary spiritual energy disaster experts were not his opponent. However, his opponent's strength had clearly surpassed himself. Hearing Mo Yu's words, Qin Feng and Liu Xiong's faces also changed. They were looking at Wen Qingxuan's calm expression with fear. She had actually gone through her spirit disaster? Isn't that a little too frightening? Lead your people and get lost from here, Wen Qingxuan said indifferently as she held onto her long spear. Mo Yu, Qin Feng, and Liu Xiong's faces turned into an ugly sight. They exchanged looks and could see the chill in each other's eyes. Within the hidden spiritual courtyard, it was the location where the Divine Wood Palace kept their sovereign spiritual liquid. As long as they obtained one drop of it, they would be able to charge against the spirit disaster. Therefore, how was it possible to get them to leave? I'll see what makes you qualified to speak such words. Mo Yu coldly sneered. Thereafter, he waved his sleeves as a light ray shot out. In a flash, the light rapidly expanded and turned into a greenish wood statue. Boundless spiritual energy was emitting from the body of the statue. Divine Wood Guard. Seeing the familiar statue, Mu Chen's gaze froze. Mo Yu actually possessed a Divine Wood Guard? HMPH, Wen Qingxuan, this Divine Wood Guard possesses the strength of a spirit disaster. Do you want to try its might? Mo Yu coldly snorted. Summoning the Divine Wood Guard had raised his confidence. You want to obstruct me with a broken piece of wood? Wen Qingxuan gripped her golden war spear even tighter as a chill flashed across her eyes. Leave the Divine Wood Guard to me. Just when Wen Qingxuan was about to act, Mu Chen's voice suddenly resounded. You're seeking death. Mo Yu smiled as he mocked upon hearing Mu Chen's words. Mu Chen's cultivation was just a human body disaster. Even if he possessed some means up his sleeves, how could he fight with the Divine Wood Guard? However, he didn't know that back in the spiritual treasure mountain, Mu Chen had defeated a first-grade spirit disaster puppet. I don't have to fight myself. Mu Chen smiled towards Mo Yu. Shortly after, he waved his hand and from his sleeve, a light shot out as well and rapidly expanded. Thereafter, it turned into a huge Divine Wood Guard. The size of it wasn't any inferior compared to the one standing up ahead. Coincidentally, I have something similar in my hands. I wonder which one would be more powerful. Mu Chen smiled with his eyes narrowed as he looked at Mo Yu, who had an ugly expression at the moment. Damn it, how do you have one as well? Qin Feng and Liu Xiong's faces paled. Never, in their expectations, would they think that Mu Chen would also possess a Divine Wood Guard. And now, their powerful trump card had failed. Wen Qingxuan was also looking at Mu Chen with a little astonishment. Clearly, she did not expect Mu Chen to have such a trump card as well. A puppet with a strength comparable to a spirit disaster was rather intimidating. Mo Yu gritted his teeth and waved his hand. The Divine Wood Guard charged towards Wen Qingxuan with the ground rumbling from its steps. Ha ha, let the big fellows play with each other, why bother a girl? Mu Chen lightly smiled, and with an intent, his Divine Wood Guard had charged towards its opponent. It threw out its huge fist, along with greenish light. Bang! Two colossal beings clashed and a huge battle broke out that even the ground was trembling. At the sight of it, Wen Qingxuan nodded her head towards Mu Chen. Thereafter, she fixed her cold gaze onto Mo Yu's group. Her war spear had, once again, surged with golden light. What should we do? At the sight of this, Qin Feng and his group's faces changed. With Wen Qingxuan's strength, even if the three of them were to join up, they would not be her opponent. Not to mention that Mu Chen and Luo Li were standing by on the side. Their advantage in numbers had become their burden under these special circumstances. Mo Yu's eyes were dark, but he did not panic. He took a glance at the hidden spiritual courtyard behind him as he muttered, "It should be almost here. Everyone, take formation as had been spoken of before." Mo Yu coldly barked as he waved his hand. The spirit of the Academy Alliance group that had previously lost their fighting spirit suddenly trembled. They retreated towards the edge of the hidden spiritual courtyard. There was a protruding stone platform that they sat down on. Wen Qingxuan, as I have said, it's not as easy as you think to chase us away. Mo Yu coldly smiled. Shortly after, his hand was placed on top of a wooden pillar of the hidden spiritual courtyard. Boundless spiritual energy surged into the pillar, and on the ancient wooden pillar, green light runes appeared as they spread out at an astonishing speed. Ha! At the same time, all those people from the Academy Alliance that were seated on the stone platform around the hidden spiritual courtyard barked out as their palms were placed on the stone platform. Light surged as they directed the spiritual energy within their body towards the stone platform. Thereafter, as the spiritual energy surged, the entire hidden spiritual courtyard was emitting a dazzling light. The sudden changes made Mu Chen and his group startled. Wen Qingxuan's face was cold as the golden war spear shot forth with piercing golden light. However, just when the golden light had entered a few feet around the hidden spiritual courtyard, it had been blocked by the greenish light that surged out. The hidden spiritual courtyard was covered in light as it became even more brilliant. The faces of all those Academy Alliance members that sat on the stone platform had turned pale. Mo Yu did not bother about his companions that had their faces paled as he directed his cold gaze towards Mu Chen's group of three. Within his eyes, it was filled with cold killing intent. "Mu Chen, you guys will regret coming here." The smile on Mo Yu's face turned savage. Shortly after, both of his hands were pressed against the ancient greenish pillar before him as he circulated all his spiritual energy. On 'em. Boundless spiritual energy suddenly gathered frantically before the hidden spiritual courtyard. Thereafter, it vaguely turned into a fuzzy light image. Within the light image, the powerful ripples being emitted from it caused the faces of Mu Chen and his group to change. This is the courtyard spirit that guards the hidden spiritual courtyard. Once it's summoned, it would automatically wipe out the life forms around the hidden spiritual courtyard. Only those that are within the range of the hidden spiritual courtyard would not suffer its attacks. Mo Yu coldly smiled as he gazed at Mu Chen's group of three in pleasure. "Now, you three will become its prey. Mu Chen, the one that laughs till the end, will not be you three." The light image gradually took form outside the hidden spiritual courtyard. When that light image appeared, everyone could sense extremely shocking spiritual energy ripples being unleashed. The spiritual energy pressure froze even the space. The faces of Mu Chen, Luo Li, and Wen Qingxuan turned grave. The sudden change of events had far surpassed their expectations. Who could have thought that the Academy Alliance would hide such a trump card? The strength of this courtyard spirit is something that even first-grade spirit disaster probably could not fend against. Luo Li said with a solemn expression as she tightly gripped her Luo God sword. Mu Chen lightly nodded his head in agreement with his brows furrowed. The current situation had become exceedingly troublesome. The fluctuation that was released from the courtyard spirit was definitely something that ordinary spirit disaster experts could not contend against. "Ha ha, Mu Chen, how is it? No matter how powerful you guys are, didn't you guys lose this game of chess? Mo Yu stood within the hidden spiritual courtyard as he looked at Mu Chen's group of three, whose expressions were grave, and he could not help smiling as the proudness could not be concealed in his laughter. With this trump card, no matter how powerful Mu Chen and his group of three were, they could not change this outcome. You say that the courtyard spirit would indiscriminately clear out anyone that is not within the protection of the hidden spiritual courtyard. Mu Chen looked at Mo Yu as he continued, "Are you guys planning on hiding inside here even after obtaining the treasure in the hidden spiritual courtyard?" Mo Yu's expression turned serious. He never thought that Mu Chen would discover this difficult problem that they would soon face. Just as Mu Chen had said, although they were the ones that summoned the courtyard spirit, it was impossible for them to control it. They would be out of the courtyard spirit's attacking range when they were inside the protection radius. However, the instant they stepped out of that radius, they would face the hostility of the courtyard spirit. "You don't have to worry about that." Mo Yu coldly sneered. Although this was indeed a problem, the important issue was to deal with Mu Chen's group of three at this moment. Just as the two of them were conversing, the eyes of the courtyard spirit that was hovering in the sky of the hidden spiritual courtyard shone with brilliance. It swept its eyes out and fixed onto Mu Chen's group of three. Thereafter, a hoarse voice resounded from its mouth, "Kill those who intrude without permission. Careful." The instant it spoke, Mu Chen yelled with his face changing. Rustle. It was as if a spiritual energy tornado was scraping around the courtyard spirit. With a flash, its figure had appeared before Wen Qingxuan like a ghost. Its palm that was emitting dazzling brilliance carried a hurricane-like spiritual energy as it slapped down on Wen Qingxuan without any hint of mercy. Rumble. The air exploded in its palm, twisting even the space. Wen Qingxuan was well aware of how powerful the courtyard spirit was as her face turned grave. The golden war spear burst forth with golden brilliance once again, and under the clear cry of a phoenix, it turned into a sharp golden light as it shot towards the palm of the courtyard spirit at light speed. Boom! The instant the two forces clashed, fearsome spiritual energy swept out as Wen Qingxuan's figure trembled for a moment before flying away. Mu Chen's figure appeared behind Wen Qingxuan at this moment as he pushed his palm against her shoulders. The earth-shattering impact was instantly transferred to him, causing wounds to tear open on his arm. There was no expression on the courtyard spirit's face as it waved its hands, unleashing a powerful ray of light as it surrounded Mu Chen and Wen Qingxuan. Shoo! Boundless sharp sword light swept out from the rear as it clashed with the spiritual energy. The spiritual energy sword aura wreaked havoc as it tore the earth apart. Luo Li's figure flashed as she appeared beside Wen Qingxuan. Sharp sword intent was being emitted from the Luo God sword as it fixed onto the courtyard spirit as a great opponent. This courtyard spirit might possess the strength of third-grade spirit disaster. Wen Qingxuan said solemnly. When Mu Chen and Luo Li heard her words, their faces changed. The courtyard spirit was actually so powerful? The strength of a third-grade spirit disaster wasn't something that they could deal with. Furthermore, even if they managed to clinch victory with all sorts of trump cards used, they would still have to pay a huge price. However, that was probably what Mo Yu and his group would want to see the most. What should we do now? Luo Li said with a low voice as she looked at Mu Chen. Wen Qingxuan had also directed her gaze towards Mu Chen. The strength of this courtyard spirit that stood before them had strength that surpassed their expectations. If they were to continue on fighting, it would definitely not be good news for them. After all, due to the sealing spiritual array, her and Luo Li's strength were sealed and could not use them to the fullest. Retreat. Mu Chen's eyes flickered as he said with no hesitation. The situation had already gone out of their control. No matter how many methods they had, they would have to pay a huge price in order to deal with the courtyard spirit that possessed the strength of a third-grade spirit disaster. Therefore, no matter how unwilling they were, they could only choose to retreat. Hearing Mu Chen's words, Luo Li nodded her head without any hesitation. Wen Qingxuan, however, was looking towards the protective radius of the hidden spiritual courtyard, at Qin Feng's group, whose faces were filled with complacency. Boom! When the three of them reached the agreement to retreat, the courtyard spirit did not plan to let these intruders off. Its figure flashed as it appeared in the sky. Spiritual energy gathered in its hand as it had turned into a huge spiritual energy light seal. That light seal was verdant with a lush green color and complicated runes on it. Green wooden mountain sealing stamp. The empty hoarse voice came out from the mouth of the courtyard spirit. The light seal grew as it faced the wind, growing to a size of a few hundred feet that had nearly surrounded this land. Mu Chen's face turned ugly. The courtyard spirit seemed to have sensed their intention to retreat as it had unleashed its finishing move. The degree of the attack had reached to an extent that even first-grade spirit disasters could only dodge. "The two of you retreat first?" Mu Chen's solemn voice resounded as black lightning frantically flickered on the surface of his body as a thunderous roar resounded. "It's not your turn to cover the rear with your strength," Wen Qingxuan said coldly. She had a strong personality that did not like to stand behind a man. Ever since she came here, she had already been saved by Mu Chen multiple times. Her personality would no allow it if she were to let Mu Chen cover their backs while they retreat. Mu Chen took a glance at her as he did not speak any rubbish. He extended his hand out to grab onto Wen Qingxuan's tender shoulders as his spiritual energy surged out, pushing her towards the direction of the forest. "You?" Wen Qingxuan's face flushed red in the air. Although she was furious, she did not fly back and could only stare with hatred at Mu Chen. "You should take caution." Although Luo Li was worried about Mu Chen, she knew that this was not the time to hesitate. She warned Mu Chen as she rapidly retreated as well. When Mu Chen saw the two girls retreat, his expression turned grave as he stared at the onward spiritual energy light seal. Even with his powerful physical body, he could feel stinging pain from the boundless energy. It was the sign that his physical body had felt danger. Mu Chen deeply inhaled a mouthful of air as he made a hug at the air. A brilliant light burst forth from his forehead and at the same time, a baleful aura surged out. A demonic pillar flew towards the heavens from the spiritual light. It was the Great Meru demonic pillar. The Great Meru demonic pillar expanded in size as it instantly grew a few hundred feet. The frightening baleful aura was spreading out as it filled this entire heaven and earth. Both of Mu Chen's hands were hugging the air, as if he had hugged the colossal Great Meru demonic pillar. Thereafter, he threw a punch out that heavily clashed against the bottom of the Great Meru demonic pillar. Buzz! Baleful aura swept as the Great Meru demonic pillar turned into an ominous light and clashed with the incoming light seal. Rumble! The air between this heaven and earth seemed as if it had exploded as a repercussion shock wave blew out, destroying the surrounding solid spiked trees. Countless spikes were sent flying by something that seemed to be like a storm, ravaging the ground. Up in the sky, Mu Chen's figure rapidly retreated, and his face had an additional trace of paleness. Although he had borrowed the might of the Great Meru demonic pillar to withstand that astonishing attack, he had also suffered injuries due to it. In the vicinity of the hidden spiritual courtyard, Mo Yu, Qin Feng, and the rest were closely watching the battle. When they saw that Mu Chen had managed to withstand that startling attack from the courtyard spirit, their faces turned ugly as a smear of fear flashed in the depths of their gazes, since they knew that if they were in Mu Chen's shoes, it was absolutely impossible for them to withstand that attack. Just how much strength did that bastard conceal? Qin Feng said as he gritted his teeth. Even if he had hidden his strength, it is impossible for him to fight with this courtyard spirit. Mo Yu said with a dark expression. Up in the sky, Mu Chen made a seal with his palm as it commanded the Great Meru demonic pillar to fly back to him. When it retreated at high speed, his expression turned exceptionally grave. The strength of a third-grade spirit disaster was indeed out of his expectations. Compared to the puppet on the spiritual treasure mountain, it was simply not on the same level. Zoo! As Mu Chen's gaze flickered, a wind explosion resounded as he immediately narrowed his eyes as he saw the courtyard spirit appearing before his face. Its empty eyes were fixed onto him. "Be careful!" From a distance away, Luo Li and Wen Qingxuan anxiously shouted as their faces changed. The courtyard spirit was unwavering with its attacks. It did not give Mu Chen any time to react as its palm extended forward. There was a terrifying spiritual energy vortex forming in its palm as frightening ripples were emitted from it. The spiritual energy vortex was frantically pulling him in, leaving no path of retreat for Mu Chen. Damn it! Mu Chen clenched his teeth as ferocity flashed past his black pupils, and he was about to utilize the baleful aura within the Great Meru demonic pillar. The spiritual energy vortex enveloped towards him. However, just when it was a few feet away from Mu Chen's face, it suddenly stopped. The Courtyard spirit's empty eyes flickered with light as its empty voice muttered, "The Successor." As it muttered, which made Mu Chen startled, he realized that the Courtyard spirit was looking at the center of his brows. Over there, an ancient tree rune appeared. It was given to him by the white-haired elder back when he was at the spiritual treasure mountain. This episode ends here. Thank you for watching.